What's going on, YouTube? So the Toyota Corolla continues to be a global favorite when it comes to iconic economy cars. And Toyota is now adding some better technology this year to sweeten the deal. So is this Corolla still a top pick, or is it time to wait for the new model? Well, let's go ahead and find out. Like always, the first thing we need to do is have a quick spec dump. So under the hood of the Corolla, you've got two different powertrain options. We've got the 2-liter 4-cylinder engine with 169 horsepower. It's paired to a continuously variable transmission, and the combined fuel economy is 34 mpg.
Now, the base price of the Corolla is sitting right at under $23,000, and if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes to get the best price. Now, of course, we'll take it out for a spin to show you the performance, but first we need to close up the hood and take a look at the exterior as well as the new interior enhancements.
Now, the exterior design of this Corolla has always been fairly sporty if you choose one of the sport-oriented trims, such as the XSE we're looking at today. Now, as far as those trims, you have LE, SE, and then you have XSE for just the gas-powered model, and then XLE for just the hybrid power model. So I want you to be aware of those trim differences. If you get this version, again, you get the sportiest look with the mesh grille going through here, some black accenting, including our badging. And then let's move over to our headlights. You can see they're a very large LED unit. You have projector LEDs across the entire lineup. You get the LED daytime running light and turn signal indicator on the SE trim and above, and then the XSE also includes this LED accent strip down here at the bottom. As we walk to the back of the Corolla, it's got a simple design, but we have the sportiest version of it.
Yeah, so the XSE comes standard with the spoiler. We additionally option for this raised spoiler for $375. And as far as individual design touches, we have this piece through the center section in between our taillights. And as far as our taillights, these are going to be partially LED. So we have the LED brake light here, incandescent reverse light, and incandescent turn signal. So 1 out of 3 elements are LED, which is not bad for this segment. And as we drop down to the lower area, all of this is pretty aggressive. And then we do also have exposed exhaust outlets here on the right side.
Next up, we have our wheel options. They're going to range in size from 16 inches to 18 inches. On this XSE, we've got the 18-inch kind of gray finished alloy. I think it looks pretty handsome overall, especially when paired with this vehicle's paint color. Now, as we move up here to our mirrors, if you get one of the X trims, you have standard heating and blind spot monitoring. Those are available on the lower trims optionally.
Now, here at the side of the Corolla sedan, overall vehicle length is 182.5 inches. Now, of course, you can also get the hatchback version as well. And if you really want to spice up the design, you can actually get the roof top finished in a black color on the SE and XSE grades. Now, as far as your safety systems, one of the things I love about the Corolla is the fact that every single active safety feature is standard equipment. That will even include things like adaptive cruise control. But guys, we need to talk about those new tech enhancements this year. But first,
if you're new here, we're brothers, and we've been reviewing cars since we were 12 and 16. We started young, and since then, we've reviewed over 2,000 cars at every price point.
no matter what you're looking for, from our long-term vehicle videos to our side-by-side comparisons, we'd love for you to subscribe to be a part of our Car Confections family.
Let's learn a lot and have some fun with all the latest cars. All right, now let's move to the inside. First is our Toyota key fob. You have smart entry as standard equipment on the SE trim and above. Getting inside, just grab behind the handle. That will unlock the door. And then we can check out the interior. No big style changes or anything like that for 2026, but we'll talk about what has been adjusted in terms of standard equipment momentarily. First up, though, we need to discuss the seats. Of course, you are going to start with a standard cloth seat as you expect for an economy car. As you move up the trims, you add a little bit more leatherette, and then when you get an XSE, you're going to get the full leatherette finish here. It is black or black with red stitching overall. It's nice and comfortable. And then the seat adjustments, you are going to have 8 ways of power adjustment, but no lumbar support, and also no memory seats are available on this model. Let's climb on inside. And let's look at the overall cabin materials. Starting with the door trim, we have a leatherette through here with a stitching detail. The entire door trim is soft touch plastic here on the XSE, as well as the entire upper part of the dash. As we move to the center section, we have a little bit of leatherette with a stitching detail through there, some piano black, and then a little bit of piano black down here on the bottom. Of course, it's not going to be padded or anything. This is an economy car after all, but it does feel nice and solid. And let's fire it up with the push button start. Now that it's fired up, let's jump into the individual features and details. We need to start with the gauge cluster, not just because that's normally where we start, but also because this is something that's been changed for 2026. Toyota is expanding the availability of basically the better displays. So now you have a 7-inch multi-function display as standard equipment on every single Corolla instead of that previous very, very small, mostly analog display. Furthermore, you now have the 12.3-inch full digital cluster you're looking at right now. That is standard on the X trims for 2026. That gives you a lot more ability to change the designs and have more features inside of the cluster. Now, moving back to the steering wheel, typical Toyota design. SE and up get the leatherette wrapping. It's manual, tilt, and telescoping. Whoops. Turning over here to the interior storage. You can see inside we've got a few donuts. It's going to be 5 donuts actually to be exact. So this is going to be on the small side even for this segment of vehicle. Civic certainly does better when it comes to interior storage. In front of that you got a couple cup holders, and then you've got this little area right here. This will be dedicated as a wireless phone charging pad. And then up here we have a dedicated space for the X trims. This will be a standard wireless phone charging pad. While I'm in this area, I might as well point out the heated seat controls. Heated seats are standard on the X trims, and you can see you have high and low with that toggle. The shifter, just a very traditional style shifter, super simple. Pull back for drive, bump over here to the left if you want to control manual shift simulation, and the XSE comes with paddle shifters on the steering wheel as well. Going into reverse, here's our standard backup camera. As you can see, resolution is not too good. It's definitely going to be on the grainier side, but the display itself is large. It does have the markings for distance as well. And then you have an electronic parking brake with brake hold located right behind there. Moving to the center section, you have automatic climate as standard equipment on all models. It's a one-zone automatic climate system, so you can see you make that a temperature adjustment right there, and your fan speed's over here on this side. And then, right in this area, we don't have a volume knob, we have volume buttons, and I'll explain why that is in just a second. But the thing about this model is today we have the optional JBL sound system, so let's go ahead and sample that versus that standard 6-speaker sound system. Yeah, so overall sound quality of this system certainly is a big step up over the standard system. It does fill up the cabin nicely, and it has plenty of bass, which I think is what a lot of people are looking for in this segment of vehicle. Now, going back to the display area, this is actually the reason why we have the little buttons here, because Toyota actually upped the screen size a little bit ago, and on the X trims you get the standard 10.5-inch display that you're looking at right now. That does mean there's really no spot, I guess, for the volume knob. The lower trims will come standard with a smaller 8-inch display instead. Regardless, both of them will have wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. That's what you're looking at right here. The resolution is pretty good, and the performance is fairly fast. Otherwise, it's just your typical Toyota system. You can have a built-in navigation system as well if you subscribe to that. Up top, you have a manual dimming mirror. And then here on our X trims, you have a standard size sunroof.
But what about the back seats of the Corolla? Are these any good? Well, actually, when it comes to space, they're going to be pretty solid. So what we're looking at is about 35 inches of legroom and about 37 inches of headroom. Those are going to be pretty decent figures for this segment. However, it's not quite as good as something like a Kia K4 or a Honda Civic. The Honda Civic's really, really big for this segment, so it's not quite that big, but it's definitely enough for an average size adult to fit back here. Of course, I brought along the official Car Confections ruler. That's so we can get a realistic knee room figure. This seat is adjusted to Drew's 5'8" seating position, and I'm 5'9", and we are looking at about 8 inches of knee space, so that's pretty solid. Also, my feet can slide up underneath of the seat. Speaking of the seats, they're actually decently comfortable here in the back. And then if we fold down the center armrest, we have 2 cup holders inside, and we're not done yet with features because every single Corolla will have the USB-C ports integrated here at the back to keep things charged up. Just be aware, no vents and no heated rear seats are offered. Over on the door trim, it is going to be hard touch all through the upper part. However, we do have a padded armrest portion, and then there's a tiny bit of door storage down below. Walking up to the cargo area, there's a button under the lid for you to open it up. And as far as overall cargo space, it's sitting at 13.1 cubic feet for this sedan model. That's going to be pretty good, not quite as good as the Honda Civic once more. That's going to have a little bit more space, but still plenty of space for most people. The seats on this upper end example do fold 60-40 split, which is also pretty solid. And if you're curious as to how this compares in other facets, not just cargo capacity to its many rivals, we'd encourage you to go to carconfections.com/vehicle rankings. We've ranked affordable vehicles like this in individual categories like cargo, luxury features on the inside, technology, powertrain choices, and the very important category of value. And you can sort the list and see the best options in each of those categories to really make an informed buying decision. Now, back to the Corolla. Let's get our cargo length, width, and height figures. So from behind the second row of seats, 40 inches of length is what you can expect. As far as the opening, 38 inches wide. The height is 20 inches tall. The load-in height, about 27 inches. And then underneath of the floor, at least here on the gasoline variant, you do have a spare tire integrated. Well guys, here we are behind the wheel of the 2026 Toyota Corolla. In this test drive, we'll be discussing quite a lot, as you can see on the screen right now. We'll also be getting things like our sound level reading, but first we need to start with a hard acceleration.
All right, that takes us up to 60 miles per hour with the Corolla. So like we mentioned at the beginning with the spec dump, you've got 2 different powertrain options for the Corolla. We've got the standard, the full gas option. It's a 2-liter 4-cylinder engine, of course, naturally aspirated. You have 169 horsepower and 151 pound-feet of torque. Now, in terms of how that power, translates to acceleration, it's fine for a vehicle of this category. It is going to be on the slower side for the segment overall, and of course it's not going to blow you away or anything like that, but you really just don't expect that for most offerings in the segment.
Yeah, really. Most of the choices are just going to kind of get you from point A to point B. Now, they do have another hybrid, or another powertrain choice, that is a hybrid, and I think a lot of you guys will be opting for that. So that's going to be a 1.8-liter 4-cylinder. You have your electric components, and all told, it's making 138 horsepower. So a little bit of interesting thing with the hybrid is that, most Toyota hybrids, that actually gets you a little bit more power than the standard gasoline choice. In this case, it's actually a little bit less power. However, that all-electric torque, I think, kind of pushes you off the line a little bit better, so it's not as big of a difference as you might expect.
Now, as far as the transmission is concerned, we've got a continuously variable transmission. As you could hear through that acceleration, it does have a shift simulation on board. That's just designed to give you a little bit more of a conventional feel and avoid a little bit of that droning sound that CVTs often cause in vehicles. Overall, it's fairly responsive.
The hybrid also has an eCVT, and I do want to talk about how the power is routed to the ground. So you do have front-wheel drive, And you also have available all-wheel drive, so that's, something that kind of stands out in this segment actually is the fact that you have all-wheel drive. Things like the Kia K4 cannot get that. It is only offered on the LE and SE hybrid trim levels only, though, so you cannot get that in the full gas option. So just a couple things to keep in mind when you're selecting your trim levels. And of course, another thing to keep in mind when you're selecting the trim levels is the fuel economy, because that's very important. So what we're sitting at for this gas XSE is 34 miles per gallon combined. The LE goes up to 35 mpg. And if you choose the hybrid, you're sitting, somewhere between 44 and 50 miles per gallon combined, depending on what trim level and what drivetrain configuration that you've chosen. But overall, those are very good figures, that's for sure.
Now, of course, we're driving on a back road, so this would be a good time to, just very briefly discuss the dynamics of the Corolla. Besides for the, GR Corolla, and a little bit more in the hatchback as well, this is not really designed to be an athletic vehicle. It's fine for what it is, but, the steering is going to be extremely light, definitely a little bit more vague than what you get in a lot of the rivals, especially if we're talking about the Civic or the Mazda 3.
Now, we've turned out on our designated strip of road to talk about ride quality, and in this department, the Corolla does pretty well. Even though we have the larger wheels on the outside, when you hit a bump in the road, it does a decent job of soaking things up. Now, as expected, this vehicle segment does let in a little bit of intrusion. It's not a luxury sedan or anything like that, but overall, I think you'll be very happy with the ride quality, and compared to rivals, it's very similar to those. But we're also going 55 miles per hour, so let's go ahead and get our sound level reading. I'll put it to fan speed 1. Not bad at all. 56.5 decibels is what we settled in at. I don't have to sit here and guess how it compares to the rivals. All of that is posted on our website, carconfections.com/sound level readings. And, honestly, looking at those competitors, that's going to be one of the quieter cabins in this compact sedan segment. It's not the quietest. The Kia K4 has that, the speed on that regard. However, it's definitely quieter than a Honda Civic. But what about our slam dunk and airball, our favorite and least favorite element? Drew, why don't you kick us off with the slam dunk?
The slam dunk is going to be kind of the fundamental elements that this Corolla continues to nail year after year. It is still an affordable, reliable, and efficient sedan, really, no matter which trim level you choose. And I think that's kind of what has helped it, sustain as being such a popular option year after year.
Yeah, and also the 26 improvements are pretty good this year. Now, on the flip side, the airball is just going to be, you are still missing a lot of features compared to the competition, especially for the price. We're sitting at $32,000 as tested today, and you can get pretty much a fully loaded Kia K4 and a very close to fully loaded Honda Civic, and both of those are going to give you more features for the money. As far as the pricing, we start at under $23,000, which does mean that this is one of the most affordable vehicles in the U.S. for sale right now. Now, that's for the gas LE model. We, of course, have the XSE, and you can see the full lineup of prices on the screen right now, but this one is the 26 XSE. $28,640 is our base price. We also have a slew of options on this one. This is a pretty much fully loaded example. $1195 destination. We're sitting at $32,111 as tested today. The Corolla is actually assembled in Mississippi, so not too far from here. And if you're looking to buy one or any vehicle, we would encourage you to go to carconfections.com/newcarquotes. The reason you should do that is because we have a tool on our website that will connect you with local car dealers in your area to get you the best price. It's also going to give you access to invoice pricing information, which is a great tool to use if you plan on doing dealership negotiation. You can even find things like a monthly payment calculator, so all of that is on our website, carconfections.com. But what about the resale value, warranty, and reliability? First up, let's talk about resale value. Toyota as a brand is very good. 64.5% of estimated retained value after 5 years and 60,000 miles. And after 10 years and 120,000 miles, 41.4%. That is basically unrivaled by any other brand. Honda is also very close, though. And overall, very good resale value percentage, especially here on the Corolla because it is an affordable vehicle.
Now, on the reliability front, as you probably expect, Toyota rates quite highly with our latest combined reliability index and 2026 data. it is overall one of the highest rated mainstream brands.
Now, if you'd like to learn more about all of that, you can find that on our website, carconfections.com. Now, when it comes to your warranty, you have a 3-year, 36,000-mile basic warranty, a 5-year, 60,000-mile powertrain. You do additionally get 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. And guys, that wraps up our in-depth review of the 2026 Toyota Corolla XSE. If you enjoyed hearing about this model and the 2026 improvements, we'd encourage you to subscribe down below and become a part of our Car Confections family. We strive to provide you all with the latest and greatest reviews, as well as on affordable vehicles like this Corolla. If you're already a part of our family, thank you so much for your continued support, and we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.